So I hear this question a lot. Why am I not making money? Well, the answer is usually simpler than you think. It is 20 after 3 in the morning. We're getting ready to go. Yeah. Already done one walk around. Well, those are working finally. No leaks under there. We're in Collins, Missouri at the Pilot. This is a video that I've been kind of struggling with, because the reason people aren't making money is a myriad of different reasons. But they're usually very simple reasons based on, most of the time, you're your own worst enemy. So we just certified our logs for yesterday, made sure those are good. Yep. Now it's time to do our pre-trip. E-logs, they're a hoot. Sure make this a lot easier though. So what got me onto this thought process is a conversation I had with a friend of mine. He's got a couple of friends who always trying to be the big wheel. Always. And they just, every move they make is wrong. But you ask them, they know everything. And one of the reasons that they're failing is because of what I'm doing right now. No, not YouTube. Getting up at 3 in the morning. So, I could have got up at 6, 7 o'clock, been through Kansas City at 9, and just kind of willy-nilly'd out. But, well, one, I'm not sleeping again. But two, you can't get these guys to get up. It's time to go to work, it's time to go to work. And, yeah. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't like getting up at the same time the bar is going to sleep. It's amateur hour, and the nuttiness will ensue, especially out here. But now here's the thing, we know these people. We all know these people. You know, loads don't pay, this, that, the other thing. And yet, every move they make is wrong. Every projection they have is wrong. They're not willing to get up at 3 in the morning. They got to be home by noon every Friday. They're not willing to bend or flex. And you got to have a little steel in what you're doing, but at the same time, you also have to be willing to flex enough to be profitable. And if you're sitting there unwilling to bend, that's usually the number one thing why these guys don't make any money. That's usually, it's just that hard nose, hard head, you know, we're going to do it my way. And that'll get you every time. So I need to get going, and we'll pick this up probably when it's a little lighter outside. So 10 hours and 34 minutes have passed since that last moment in the dark. I am in Norfolk now. Yes, Norfolk, Virginia, or Nebraska. I wish it was Virginia, because Norfolk, Nebraska is where boredom goes to die of boredom. It's a beautiful day and I would love to film outside, but it's really, really windy. But it's 64 degrees. It's January and it's 64 degrees in Nebraska, and I like that. But we were sitting there talking about making money. I ended with, you can't get these guys out of bed. You can't. So, one of the other things is, where people tend to not make money, is they keep chasing pennies. I've talked about this multiple times. Stop chasing pennies. Yes, pennies are important. Pennies add up. But you get guys that'll go job after job after job, and they'll keep bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. And they never get a raise. They never rise in the company. They're always at the bottom because they're chasing pennies. And that's some company stuff right there. That's not for owner-operators. But even company drivers, if you put in your time, put a year or two in, trust me, you're going to get those pennies. And if you don't, then it's time to go find new work. But stop chasing pennies. You're not going to get anywhere. All it's going to be is just a series of lateral moves that are just going to leave you at the bottom of the pecking order. Something to think about. But also, when people become owner-operators, they make a very crucial mistake. We all had this idea as a company driver. I can do what I want. Nothing could be further from the truth. Now you have the option to do what you want. Don't get me wrong, and most of these companies will give you exactly what you ask for. But you better not complain when everything backfires. The only difference that really changes, other than you're holding the bag when you go from a company driver to an owner-operator, is that you've just eliminated the middleman, the guy that owns the truck. You still have a boss. That's the customer. You still gonna work for somebody. That's the dispatcher. That's the broker. You need these people. And to be foolish enough, like we all were, to think that you're going to be able to pick and choose and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, trust me, you don't set the rate. You absolutely do not. There was a time when drivers could manipulate it and we wouldn't haul it for cheap. Those days are gone. You don't set the rate. You are always going to work for somebody. That's very important to remember. And sometimes you got to eat a little crow. But sometimes you got to be thinking 3 steps ahead. I've been up since 2:45. I'm a little tired. So what do I mean by thinking 3 steps ahead? Well, we were talking about these guys who are just bound and determined. They know everything, despite the fact they've gone bankrupt 3 or 4 times. I used to work with a guy who had bought 3 trucks in 3 separate years. I don't know how he got a loan 3 different times to buy 3 trucks. Lost all 3 of them. But in the same sentence, he's telling me about these trucks he owned. He said the first thing I did was took it right to the chrome shop. Apparently, between the 3 trucks, he'd busted somewhere around $25,000 to $30,000 in chrome. Back in those days, you could buy a good truck for $20,000. So, yeah, your priorities are screwed up here. But we were sitting there talking to these guys, and my buddy was telling me about this. He says, yeah. He says he gets this load, pays $3.04 a mile. I said, sounds pretty good. It's a short run. He can make it in a day. Yeah. I said, where's it go? He said, out to Denver. I'm like, ooh, it's flatbed freight. And I said, well, what does he get back? He says, he gets nothing back. There's nothing there. He says, on the very, very rarely, I think 1 out of 25 or 30 loads, he finds a load back. I usually just pays for fuel. And so he's getting paid $3.04 a mile to do this. No, he's not. He's getting paid $1.52 a mile because he's coming right straight back. So you also have to figure out your operating costs. So when you add in the whole round, because the deadhead is real, we figured, my buddy of mine figured out his operating cost was $1.01 a mile. That's with the deadhead and everything. So he is essentially making 51 cents a mile. You can't operate on 51 cents a mile. I mean, it's all profit. There is no profit. That 51 cents a mile is going to get eaten up like that. Company drivers make more than that. But these guys are bound and determined that they're going to prove everyone wrong, and they would rather go bankrupt than to take a little advice from people who know. Getting your own authority and all that, that's great. I have no problem with any of that. But going out and running the spot market and trying to figure it out on your own is hard. And this is where we come into another problem. Guys thinking, I'm not leaving till 8 Monday morning, and I'm going to be home by noon on Friday. Well, good for you. I could do that too, but I'm going to tell you right now, my paychecks would be cut into thirds. Working the weekends, and I'm testament to this, is the difference between a $4,500 week and an $1,800 week. It's not a joke. It's going to take you 2 to 3 days to get back into the groove. You're going to be in the groove for a day and a half and then demand to go home. The guys that make money doing this have set themselves up, and a lot of them, it took a year or two to get where they wanted to. They built their route. But these routes aren't forever. But I'll tell you right now, if you think you're going to get that right out of the gate, you're wrong. And if you do, you are the luckiest person in the world. So these guys aren't being flexible with their time. You have to be flexible with your time. You've got to find balance. Now I'll be the first one to say, if you're happy with what you're doing, by all means, stick with it. It's a little windy. If you're happy with your paychecks, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. If you're not and you want to do more, that's where you got to figure it out. I was going to try to do a little filming out here, but it's almost too windy. Back to the truck. There's too many guys out here that have no balance in their lives when it comes to work and home. And it's hard. Balance, I will never act like it's an easy thing. I didn't get here, like I said, I take 90 days off a year. I have other things I do with the YouTube. I also like to have my time off because, well, I'm getting older and sometimes it takes me a little longer to wind down. Plus, it gives me time to do my projects. But I didn't get this way overnight. There were years where I was only home maybe 30 days a year, maybe. I was home every month, but I'd be home for a weekend, 2 days, maybe 3, and have to go. And if I was lucky, I might get by the house for a night. Rarely. Absolutely rarely. And I had to put in my dues. But you got to find balance. And here's one of the things I discovered with finding balance. You're going to find it in the weirdest ways. Now, I'm living proof that you don't have to stay out for weeks at a time to make money. I've done that. And I'm going to tell you what I discovered doing that. I discovered that you're going to have to take time off somewhere. You're going to be riding a wave. The wave will crest. You're going to go into the valley, and you're going to be there a couple of days. You're going to run out of time. You're going to run out of hours. You're just going to run out of everything, and you're going to get stuck. And usually about 3.5 weeks is when you peak. But there's another valley coming. And so you just run a sine wave like this. And when you're gone 5 and 6 weeks, you hit a couple of highs, you hit a couple of lows, but then you're going to have to take time off. You're going to end up, there's going to be 4 or 5 days in there that you're just not making money. And wouldn't you rather take those days off at home? I mean, seriously. Finding balance. And relationships take a toll too. Being out like this 5, 6, 7 weeks at a time, 3, 4 months at a time is a leading cause of divorce. Guys, listen to me when I tell you this. Listen to me when I tell you this. If you're gone 6 months at a time and you only call your old lady once every 2 or 3 days, and you're only home for 2 days at a time after being gone for 6, 8, 10 weeks, and you spend half of the time on the motorcycle or out in the garage, don't be shocked when she gets a boyfriend. Gee, I never saw it coming. Of course you never saw it coming. You weren't there to see it coming. And finding a balance in home life like this is very difficult. If I had a wife and kids and all that, I probably wouldn't be an owner-operator right now. Either that or I'd be modifying what I'm doing to accommodate my home life. It's balance. And you have to figure it out. It's different for everybody. But staying out for weeks at a time, I trust me when I tell you this, you're not going to make any more money than you will going home for 3 or 4 days. I am living proof of that. My paychecks didn't benefit 1 iota from being out 5 weeks versus being out 3 weeks. Not 1 iota. So, like I said, if you're not going to get paid at all and you're going to make the same amount of money, go home and find some balance. One of the other things that gets owner-operators, especially new ones, and some of the old-timers too, because a lot of them don't learn. There's a few of them out there, you're just wondering, how are you still in business? But somehow they still manage to muddle along, just barely. I've talked about taxes. That'll get them. But being cheap. Being thrifty and saving your money is one thing. You should do that. Cutting every corner till the world is round is something completely different. So let me ask you this. If the heater in your truck goes out in March, you know it's going to warm up. You've got all summer to fix it. Fix it in March. I'm going to tell you why. These guys are going to sit there and say they're going to save up money and they're going to get busy with what they're doing and they're going to put it aside. I got time. And then suddenly in September it snows and they need that heater. Suddenly they're freezing. Truck's not warming up. Things aren't just going well. They can't sleep in the truck. They're going to freeze to death. So they have to put it in the shop. So instead of putting it in the shop in March or April when they were home and had a couple extra days, or when they were on family vacation or taking a few days off, they're putting it in the shop in September and October. You know, when everybody else is getting their heater fixed. When problems arise, you need to take care of them. It's going to cost you more up front. But if you do it on your time, you're going to make more money on the back end. You're going to save that money on the back end. And you'd be shocked how much money you can save on the back end when you fix things properly the first time and spend a little extra to do it, like I did with my clutch. I'll recap the clutch story in about 30 seconds. Clutch went out. Shop was like, we figured out what was the problem. It was all gummed up. We cleaned it out. Seems to be working fine, blah, blah, blah. But it's on the last adjustment. Oh, it'll be all right, but it's on the last adjustment. I said, you know what? I got time. Let's fix it. Well, let's do this. I'm going to save you bucks. No, absolutely don't save me money. Fix it the way I told you to fix it. Here's the thing. I wanted to use the proper OEM parts. I wanted to use what originally was in the truck. I did not want them cutting corners. The truck was already broken. It already lost revenue this week. I might as well round the week out because they had it done in 3 days. I was back to work. So what would have happened if I had just had them patch it together and get me going? Well, this is what would have happened. Get the truck running. I go another month. Things are going well. Okay. I put it off. Well, then the next thing you know, it's January, like right now, and I'm heading down to Mississippi. I'm in Nowheresville, Arkansas, and then it does go out. And then there's a $2,000 tow to either St. Louis or Memphis. And then there's a week in a hotel. And then there's the repair. So instead of a $5,500 repair, I'm 12 deep in everything. If you got the time, fix it. You know, it was going to be about $1,100 or $1,200 with the other stuff I wanted fixed, and a few days off work. That's fine. But had the clutch gone out on the road, I would have had 2 separate shop bills. It would have cost me literally double. Fix it right the first time. Stop being cheap with your trucks. If you can get it right, get it right. That's one of the things you have to do to make money. You got to spend a little to make a little. And I'll tell you what, it's worth it. One of the things I learned, thankfully not the hard way, was that there's a big difference from the guy that signs the front of the check to the guy that signs the back of the check. Most of the people that are failing at this is due to their own ignorance. Look at what they're doing. They sit there, they only put the bare minimum and fuel in, and next thing you know, they owe on their IFTA. I was talking to a guy about that. He was doing what he thought was right. I get it. Saving his money, just putting enough fuel in at the cheapest places he could find, and you know, just muddling along trying to save every dime. Okay, lots of guys do it. He didn't understand his IFTA, and he ended up owing like $250. He's like, I don't understand how this happened. Well, we sat down and I broke it down. Where'd you fill up? Where'd you do this? Where'd you do this? And I said, you have to do it like this. I said, you know, one of the things I learned, especially when fuel was spiking, was, yes, it's expensive. You're getting a surcharge. Yes, it's expensive. But here's the thing. You're going to use that fuel. Either this load or the next load. If you got a load that's paying, top it off. Just top it off. And I'll guarantee you, you're gonna use it. And you need to figure out, you know, where the fuel tax is and how many miles. You know, don't do that. Like, you can do all that, mileage and this and that, put this amount of fuel of that. There's programs that do it. Trust me. I know that if I fill up in Illinois with my discounts, I'm getting a better price in Illinois than I am Wisconsin or Iowa. I top it off in Illinois. The IFTA covers the whole trip and a few other things. I almost always get a refund because of things like that. But I guess it just comes down to understanding what you're doing. You have to understand your art, your craft, whatever you want to call this. Don't think you're going to outsmart these guys. It's not going to work. You're not here to game the system. You're not here to get over on anybody, because I guarantee you it's going to come back to bite you. At the end of the day, guys, I'll tell you this. I've seen too many guys go down because they thought they were smarter than everybody else. They thought that they were the ones to invent the game. They thought that they were getting over. They thought that they wouldn't get caught. They were just cutting corners, being cheap. They were playing a game they didn't understand. The trucking game is fascinating. It really is. But you have to play it by their rules. You don't make the rules here. I don't. You don't. Nobody does. The rules are already laid out in that little green book. And one of these days, we're going to go over that book. I'm working on a video on that. Don't try to game the system. That's what I'm saying. You're not going to get over on them. There's too many people out there that have been in this business too long who understand it better than you and I will ever know it. And they're the ones that set the rules. They're the ones that figure it out. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of hands in the pie, and the FMCSA, whether you like them or hate them, they set the rules. And the gray area in the rules exists for a reason. Here's the thing. I've always say that when you get in trouble, it's up to the discretion of the arresting officer. It's the gray area. But here's the other neat thing about the gray area, is the gray area also allows you latitude to fight it. The gray area is for both of us. The officer to write the ticket, for us to fight it. The gray area is the gray area. There's a lot of money to be made out here, guys. But if you're going to make it, you have to put in the work. And you're only going to be able to shortcut it for so long. You can't game this system. There's nothing to game here. There just isn't. I've talked about this before, and sometimes with some of these points I do sound like a broken record. But you have to put in the time, you have to put in the work, and you have to be willing to do a lot of things you don't like. If you're not willing to bend your stiff neck and take a few loads here and loads there and do some things that you don't like, you're just not going to make it. You're not. If you're not flexible enough, they can't use you. I mean, you're useless. You're only good for 3 or 4 loads, and you're just going to drown. You have to be willing to eat a little crow every now and then and bend your stiff neck so you can get yourself in a position to get a good load. There's a lot of money out here, but you don't get it in one score. You get it in many little scores. I need to do a video about that one of these days. That sometimes busy work, and I had a week this last week where I did a lot of busy work, and I made a lot of money. So sometimes doing a little bit of busy work and doing some stuff you don't like will actually benefit you. It's worth checking out. But if it ain't going your way, figure out what you're doing, modify what you're doing a little bit, and see if that helps. Doesn't help to ask questions. And sometimes, if you can loosen up a little bit, enjoy what you're doing and stay out different days, or stay out a little longer, or work over a weekend here and there, you'll be surprised at the money you can make. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. See you next video.
Walking down the streets, feeling the breeze, in the sunshine state where dreams come with ease. Palm trees swaying with the ocean in view. This is the place where I always feel brand new. Sipping on a smoothie, chilling by the shore. Got my shades on, feeling like I can't be ignored. Sun-kissed skin, feeling so alive in the soft rap game. I strive to thrive. Waves crashing on the sand as I ride the vibe. Soft rap flowing, let the rhythm collide. I'm the king of this groove with the catchy hook. Got the ladies moving and the fellas shook.